Hello everyone. So I do a little intro to Excel video. For those of you that are not very familiar with Excel, maybe a little nervous about using it, this will kind of help us out a little bit. The whole Excel file that you opened up is called a workbook. Notice it's called book 1. So this is a book. These are pages in a book: sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet as many as you want. Basically, there's a lot you can do there. You can rename these sheets. You can either do it like that and just type in page 1, or you could name in your name or name of your dog or whatever. You can also double click on them. If you like, you can change their color. You can do all kinds of different goofy things to them if that makes you happy. It doesn't really hurt my feelings one way or the other. But remember, it's a book. Those are pages. That's going to be key to come up with some of the things that we do. So each one of these little boxes are called a cell. You can store stuff in them. For instance, 148 horses. Okay, I don't know what that means, but maybe that's something that's important to you. Who knows? It could be, your girlfriend's birthday, Pi Day in 1915, and 2015. Let's keep it clean. Let's say it's 1915. Your girlfriend's 100 some odd years old, so that's great. That's not weird at all. Yeah. So anyway, maybe that's the birthday that you want to remember. I don't know, whatever. So you can do it as a storage deal. But you can also do it as an addition thing. So of course you could have a column of numbers. These are weights, or I don't know, whatever, numbers of cherry tomatoes on a tree, plant, whatever. I don't know what they are. You can go to the auto sum button if you like. Boom. You can add them up. You can also you can type in whatever you like too. You can also go equals sum, and then click and highlight stuff. You can get rid of those guys for a second if you don't want them. And you can literally type in equals average. I want to average those values. That's cool. Hey, I remember this stuff from back in the day. Can I do median? Sure. Hey, look, I found the median of it. So a lot of the stuff that you've thought about over the years, formula-wise, is actually underneath of, well, formulas. So some of the basic ones that are under recently used, but things like count is one that comes up frequently. But under here is math functions. So you get sines and cosines and degrees and factorials and inverses. What do I want to say here? Multiplication of matrices, for goodness sakes. You can do random number generations. You can sum if. So if a certain thing has happened, then you'll add it up. Here's some statistical ones. Some engineering ones I've never used. Some information ones. These are kind of cool. You can do some interesting things with them. Excuse me. These ones are actually kind of cool to see because there's some stuff in here that a guy comes across once in a while. You're like, I didn't even know it was in here. Like, for instance, a couple years ago, I didn't even know that one was in here. Negative binomial. Crazy. I used that all the time in one of my classes, and I was happily ignorant until just a couple, I think it was last year, that I ran across that was in there. And because this thing will do more stuff than a person would ever think about. But anyway, there's some cool stuff. You can do different lookup reference stuff. That's if you have a bunch of data you want to go look up. Different time and date ones. All kinds of good stuff there. It's kind of neat to see how it all works. Sometimes you'll be, like, I use financial stuff a lot. Other ones, for some things, and some other things I don't use them at all for. But they're pretty neat functions. Now, again, each one of these is a cell. I can set some cells, for instance, this one here, maybe I want this to be a value of money. So I can click on the dollar sign, it'll turn into accounting mode. Okay. Maybe I want this to be, let's see, oh, shut up. I'm going to do 0.05 or something. Oops, 0.05 or something. And then I can click on this and just make it a percentage, just make it 5%. Okay. But maybe I put 0.05, 0.051. Oops, 1. And notice it's 5%. Well, that's not right. So what you can do is click on this guy here. It says add more decimals. And it'll add as many decimals as you would like to add. So 5.1%, for instance. Okay. That is not my intention at all today to do everything there is to do about these. Of course, you're well aware of fonts and so forth. What is kind of nice sometimes, if a guy wants to make this column a little wider, you got a little more room to work in here, you can just click and drag it up here. Whee! You can start typing in the lazy brown dog over the quick brown fox who was eating chickens, eggs. Cool. And that's weird because it overlaps. So what a person can do is come over here and right click on this, and you can change the row height. You can make it taller, something like maybe 30. Hit OK. And then if you come up here, if you click on just this cell and click on wrap text, it'll just wrap it around for you, and you're like, oh, look, it fits. You know, it's one of those things, it's kind of neat sometimes to know that it'll do it. Not 100% necessary. Now, you can see how these cells are named A1. See how this one's named E5. This is what's called the name box. It literally says name box if you hover over it. This one here is called the formula bar, okay? Now, if I come over to the name box, I might want to name a cell sometime. Matter of fact, I'm totally going to want to do this. So I can name this cell perhaps something like, well, it'd be nice if you'd spelled it right, but it's not important. You hit interest and then hit enter. That's the big deal. You must hit enter. Then whatever's in this cell now is not called E1 anymore. It is now called interest. Oops. And so, if I come down here and I say, well, let's do 100 times, if I click on this cell, it's 100 times interest. Bam, done. Pretty slick deal. Okay. You can also say equals, and this is what's kind of fun. You can just point and click. So I want to take F4 times 3 plus interest. If I start typing interest, you can see that interest pops up, and voila, there's my answer. I don't know, I just made that up. I'm not sure why I would ever want to do that. The timesing by interest, that I totally know why we're going to do that, and we're going to do it a lot. Now, for some of you, you'll have an older version of Excel, / you'll be using the online version. The online version doesn't include this one, or at least it didn't on the latest one I've messed with. Google Sheets also does not include a name box. So there is a way around that. For instance, if you want to make this cell not change, what you're going to do is down here you would say equals 100 times, now this is where it's key, you would do this. You would click on H1 like that, and then hit the F4 button. And that will lock it in. Okay? That means it's going to absolutely stay on whatever's in that cell forever. Okay? In a minute we might want to drag some stuff around. That's called an absolute reference. That's the old school way to do it. The new school way to do it, the cooler way to do it, I think, is to just name the cell interest or whatever. I think that's the better way, but you do what you want to do. Now, back in my day, and it's still true to some degree when you're dealing with a keyboard, with a, like for instance my Microsoft Surface, the F4 doesn't work properly. Or at least I can never make it work the way I want it to all the time. So what you can do is you can literally type it in $H $1. And that's the way to do it in Excel. The online version, some of the older versions specifically of Macs were a little weird sometimes about having the name box. I mean, they should be there, but once in a while you run into one that's not there. It's not the end of the world. Just be aware of that. Google Sheets is totally that way. It does not have a name box, so you have to do it with these alternate reference way of doing it. Okay. Some pretty interesting things there. Now, formulas, as I say, we're in here earlier. You will, from time to time, misname a cell. This is where you can come in to delete it. So right here, currently, I have named interest in sheet 4, cell E1. That's where interest is. It'll always be there. So if I'm on this different sheet and I say, I know, I'm going to do equals 1200 times interest, and I type in interest, okay, it's going to refer me back to the other page. And you're like, well, what? So if I type interest, or no, well, actually, here's a better way of doing it. Suppose I just do this, like I'm going to name this guy interest. Watch me try to name it interest. Ooh, it takes me back to the other page. That's because it's already been used once. You can't name it that again, so you have to name it something else. For instance, maybe I want to name it interest 2. Can't do any spaces, but you could do underscore and do things like that. So interest 2. Hit enter, and now you've saved it. Okay, we will be monkeying around in some of these other things as we go along. There's some pretty cool stuff. One thing I would like to show is this, is sometimes you'll have some data across the top. You know, I don't know, date, amount, store, category, I made one up for a guy today where it had a whole bunch of different data things across the top, and then he had zillions and zillions of rows down the page. What you can do is freeze panes, but you can freeze the top row. And now what happens is you enter more and more data. Keep an eye on the number 2. It's going to disappear in a second. You see that? And so these are going up, but the top row stays here so the person can see what they're doing. It's kind of a neat thing to see. So, by no means did we cover everything today. We'll also monkey with graphs coming up in this term, so be aware of that as well.